This video is not made for kids. There I am, knee-deep with the filming for The Loop, the best book ever, when suddenly I see a theory video in my recommendations. I watched the first minute of it, learning they are covering an artist called Begotten, and how each album by said artist tells a story.
Holy crap, a music ARG!
I think, and I stop watching the theory and click on the artist to listen to it myself. So that way, all I'm thinking about is the music and the message I think it conveys. Ladies, gentlemen, and everyone in between, this is the story of Begotten, the most tragic skeleton in music history. One evening in autumn 2017, a man named Dennis was advertising his own record label, Geometric Lullaby, on a self-promotion forum, beckoning any vapor trap artist to sign a deal with him. Among all the replies, one stuck out to him like a sore thumb. 6 albums. 6 whole albums and multiple music videos. Who from? A sample artist named Begotten, from the country of Azerbaijan. However, we will soon figure out that this isn't a person, but a god. Rory O'More is a book written by Irish novelist Samuel Lover, published in the year 1800. It is in that book where we first hear the famous phrase, better safe than sorry. In another sense, it is always nice to double-check things. Dennis, knowing this, thought it would be better to double-check with Begotten that they wanted Dennis to release their albums under the Geometric Lullaby label, to which there was no answer. 3 months pass, and a notification can be heard coming from Dennis's computer. What else could the message be but a long-awaited reply from Begotten?
Please release. Send address.
And that was all Dennis needed. He prepared the first album, titled Life Cycle, to be released by converting to MP3 and requesting for it to be put on cassette. While this was happening, a package arrived at Dennis's door. A package from Azerbaijan. A package from Azerbaijan with 20 signed J cards for the first release. How convenient. It is important to point out that every one of these albums have both a paragraph of Chinese text and a block of, for lack of a better term, poetry. The Chinese text almost never makes sense, with it being scattered around like a dismantled jigsaw puzzle. However, we can make out some info. It talks about death, the weather, and a dream where an old best friend who's so obsessed with otters ends up turning themselves into one. The poetry, however, is more structured, it has reason, and it makes sense, which I will read to you now. If love is a gift, then I am luckier than most. I am showered with more than anyone could hope. Only I cannot accept them with open arms or a smile. I push everyone away from me, never-ending denial. It hurts to exist, it is painful to live. My wrists show the struggle of my emptiness. Just once I want to express myself right, to be honest to those who deserve so, and cry. To bleed my own blood, not for me, not my life, but for someone who needs it, just once before I die. And when I'm gone from this life, I'll look down in surprise. The world keeps on turning, not a cloud in the sky. Without me it's better, and less filled with hate, because now I'm gone, buried deep in a grave.
Don't you know you're so sexy?
Dennis opens his front suburban home door at 9 AM to collect the newspaper that has been carelessly thrown onto his lawn by a paperboy paid way too little to work way too long. Upon this short morning stroll that would have taken 30 seconds at most, he accidentally steps on an envelope. Within it was a small card that simply read, "You're invited," with an address leading to a graveyard in Georgia, and a "Sincerely Begotten" written in what looked to be blood on the back of the card. It could just be red ink, you know. Yeah, well, that's less interesting, isn't it? What was most intriguing was the return address, a mental institution in Georgia. The Chinese text for this one is confusing yet again, just more talking about the weather, flash floods, and snowstorms. Here's the block of poetry that went with Begotten's second release, Hushwave. A step too far and I find my way, falling to my knees because the emptiness remains. The lights are so bright, I must close my eyes. I indulge once more as tears fall and she cries. Life is a burden I cannot bear, the barrel of a gun, a blank-eyed stare. Razor blade on the mantle, a cup full of pills. I tried everything once, but nothing fulfills. Scars on my arms, self-mutilation perhaps. I could get out of bed now, but rather take another nap. Scared to death of death itself and nowhere to turn. I hope I find solace before it's too late to learn. For ease of viewership, I'm not going to tell you the entire part of this story, rather condense it down. Basically, Dennis asked one of his friends who lived in Georgia to visit the graveyard scribbled on the back of the invitation. They agree and do so, having a FaceTime call the entire time. After what seemed like hours of waiting and constant complaining from the friend asking if they could
please just go home,
Dennis spotted something in the car park of the cemetery. There stood a black 2017 Ford Ranger. A black 2017 Ford Ranger that was still running. After Dennis requested that the friend go up to the people in the car and ask if they knew anything about Begotten, the connection was lost. They were cut off. After weeks of nothing, finally Dennis's friend gets back to him, saying that they have no memory of what happened, and that all the things that Dennis is telling him, the mental institution, the graveyard in Georgia, and the mysterious vapor trap artist, has to be some sort of inside joke. And perhaps it was Dennis who belonged in the mental institution, not a skeleton from Azerbaijan. The Chinese text for this release has taken a sharp turn from the usual weather information. Instead, it roughly translates to some sort of Jewish or Christian biblical message, and how you should only worship your one and true God. Here is the poetry from Begotten's third release, Phantom Psalms. A ghost is being sent to remind, a creature of memory outside of space and time. It returns with a vengeance, it won't leave me alone. Just as happiness finds me, my honesty is blown. Another year will I last, a decade or two. Every day is a curse, but somehow I get through. A friend is a pawn, a lover the same. Another piece of my life, it's just a game. I'll lose soon enough, I'll fall to the rest. Inside I have lost, I have failed the test. Sorry for the lack of continuity, but I just didn't want to change clothes for the video today. Shut up, it's my YouTube video. Dennis only explored one address from the invitation card. That was the graveyard. So Dennis never got to see the mental institution. Fortunately, Dennis was part of a band that was on tour. A band that was on tour and passing through Georgia. Yes, finally, we're gonna get some big lore reveals. Oh, never mind, I guess. I haven't mentioned this yet, but Dennis would spam Begotten's email address constantly. Because, like me and countless other listeners, he was curious. And up to this point, he had only ever gotten one written reply back to him, simply confirming that they wanted their albums to be released under the Geometric Lullaby label. Almost as if Begotten could sense that Dennis had been let down, which he was because the hurricane didn't allow him to continue his little quest. Begotten sent a text to Dennis, simply saying,
Thank you. I'm still alive. I'm okay for now.
The Chinese text for this release is actually the first most logical paragraph. It just talks about how the writer feels immense happiness for a couple that has fallen in love, and how they should not take their unique feelings they have for each other for granted. The following poetry was tied to Begotten's fourth release, Happy Anniversary. Oh my god, hold on, you could rap to this, hold on! What a happy anniversary, joy spent of time, what a wonderful evening with your hand in mine. You tell me everything that you want to say, you let it all out, put it all on display. I can say a word, my mind goes blank, I want to shed tears, say words, give thanks. It's a happy anniversary from me to you, you'll never understand, they never do. Hey! Oh my god, that was amazing. That was really good. I can't believe that worked so well. Begotten, what were you thinking? Okay, alright.
It was a sunny afternoon when a kid called Quinn received a text from a number that they did not recognize. The text said,
I will be gone and I will not take.
Attached below was an image and an audio.
After careful consideration from Dennis concerning what he should reply with, "Thank you, I'm still alive, I am okay for now," Dennis decided to go with something along the lines of,
"A lot of people have connected with your art. You should be proud."
This prompted a back and forth where Dennis got some more information about Begotten, and he discovered that Begotten suffered from multiple mental disorders and mental illnesses. Something was off about the texts though. The English was a little weird and there was some incorrect grammar spotted here and there. It goes without saying that there was Chinese text and poetry. The Chinese text talks about perspective and the poetry is just really depressing. So that's not what I'm going to talk about for this release. Instead, I'm going to read to you the reply from Begotten after being asked if his texts were being translated by a caretaker, possibly working in the mental institution that Begotten may or may not be committed to. Along with the reply, they also sent a video titled Me, which I will play for you now. Accompanying this is the music from Begotten's penultimate release, Forgive and Forget.
Trigger warning, scars, blood, and mentions of suicide.
Please forgive my blood, but I've cut my wrists and neck. In any case, no one will understand the reason for this. To give some explanation, I am not a human being. This is just a dream. Soon I will wake up. It's too cold. The blood has been freezing, plus my new knife is too blunt. If I fail to die by the knife, I will blow the shit out of my own skull.
Who are you?
Do you really want to know who I am?
This response chilled Dennis to the bone, causing him not to be able to sleep or eat properly for the next couple of days.
What am I supposed to say to that?
Dennis would wonder. After thoughtful consideration, Dennis would reply,
You are Begotten and that is all that matters. Thank you for trusting me.
Then he listened to the entire discography with his eyes closed, allowing the albums to fully overcome and envelop him. Here's the poetry that came along with Begotten's 7th and final release, New Aura. A void is all that's left, no sanity to be found. I've lost my mind in the process, and I can't distinguish any sounds. When there's nothing to live for and you are truly at your last, you hate yourself thoroughly and solely dwell on the past. A new you starts emerging, something different and something clean, something desperate for anything other than a dream. But dreams are what I have, they beckon me with demand. Let's hope my dreams never come true, for if they do, you'll know exactly who I am. Okay, what does this all mean? The original video by Pad Chennington that inspired me to make this video actually didn't theorize what the story behind Begotten was. Pad only explained it on the surface level. So, in order to give Begotten some justice, and to not be accused of ripping off content, I'm going to see if I could figure out what Begotten's story actually is. And I'll be damned, but I think I have. By Joe, by golly, by Mother's Pearl Necklace, I think I have it. The ant's been staring at me the entire time. Its shining golden eyes piercing into the very foundation of what my red bucket rests upon. Begotten's a god, or some sort of deity I'm sure, brought to Earth for some profound and incomprehensible reason. Well, something to do with the weather, probably. But in trying to get their message out there, spreading the truth by word of mouth, they get shut down, and committed to a mental institution because only a madman would depict themselves as a god, as a messiah, right? For the first couple of years, doctors, nurses, and psychiatrists try to cure Begotten of this horrible misunderstanding, but they can't, because an isn't a misunderstanding, it's the truth. The doctors try harder and Begotten still refuses to budge. Like an unstoppable force meeting an immovable object, the cycle continues, and Begotten is forced to face the truth, the unbearable truth, that the only way that could end this cycle is by death. The doctors won't let them out, and they won't stop trying new ways to convince them that they aren't some sort of heavenly spirit. Begotten's only option now is a blade and a noose. But you can't get those in an asylum. No, well, I don't think so. Wait, it would be illegal, and it would be wrong. The cycle has destroyed begotten, cursed by a vast lack of hope and a way out. The sweet release of death is promised, and yet it never arrives, because they're a god. Doomed by immortality. Their one vent, their one escape? Music. The art of sound manipulation and customization. But how would they get their music out there? By getting signed to a label, owned by a man named Dennis.
본 순간 나는 알았어 믿길 수 있어 사랑하면서 두 눈 가득
Woohoo! Post-credit scene! Post-credit scene, post-credit scene, post-credit scene. Apologies for the change of scenery in both the Hushwave and My Theory chapter. I had to film on 2 separate holidays. Speaking of holidays, Merry Christmas and Happy New Year, even though I'm probably a few days late. Go check out my Discord, Spotify, TikTok, and Instagram, as well as my group collab channel with some truly PogChamp people. And I have a second channel now, link in description. Go check it out, please. As I'm sure you are aware, this video took a long time to make, and I want to continue making this type of content, so get used to the upload schedule being once a month to once every 2 months, something like that. First video with the new bucket. Yeah, I know, the old one was just too banged up. It had holes, it had cracks, and overall just bad design. So as much as I've grown accustomed to the old one, it was time for a makeover. Don't worry, I still have the original, and I will guard the nostalgia and memories with my life. Also, first video with an age warning at the start. Despite the age warning, there was still one thing I couldn't bear to show you, however. One of Begotten's music videos features someone committing self-death by throwing themselves in front of a train. Now, a good internet dweller would be a skeptic, as was I, but the video is shot on an angle similar to a security camera, and there's just no cuts or anything. It's just slowed down and has a bunch of video filters on it. I removed this from my video because even for an age-rated video, it still seemed a little dark. Like, you know, it's one thing to talk about self-death, but it's another thing to actually show it on camera. But it is out there on YouTube as of recording this for anyone who's willing to find it, if that's your destiny, I guess. I'm also thinking of putting teasers to my next video in these post-credit scenes, so let me know if that seems like a good idea. Anyway, see ya, I gotta go now, and why are you still here?